Uh,
You pressed the recording. Okay.
yep, we're recording. We're on. All right. Hello, my name is Gary Gomes. I'm here with John Kirazian, who's an astrologer from Lebanon, who I've had the honor of knowing since 2006. I've been working with him, sort of advising him, or I hope at least providing some good knowledge to him over the past few years, and it's an honor for him to be on the channel. We're going to spread this out into other formats as well, but we will put this on the YouTube channel that I have. And Jean, I'd like to welcome you, and if you could just give me a little bit of background about yourself and how long you've been into Jyotish, why you got into Jyotish, and what the presentation's about. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you, and I want to thank you for accepting this meeting and for this interview. I'm really honored for this. When around 16 years ago, when I was in a spiritual group that used to do yoga, meditation, and this kind of stuff, we were introduced to Jyotish, and basically this was a way so that we can know if we can change our destiny, if we can change our karma. So I started to learn it extensively, and I started to read people's charts, especially in my community, and I saw that people basically cannot change their karmas. They basically, everything that Jyotish shows in a chart, it happens to them, especially the Mahadashas. This left me in a kind of confusion that spiritual life will get you better or not. And I left the Jyotish like in a standby for around 10 years, just so that because I was not able to help people, because I was not able to give them the right advice. I was able to see, to pinpoint the future and the past, and I was able to say what is going to happen and what happened, these kinds of things. But I always feeling guilty, especially when I used to see bad charts, bad effects. So around a year ago, I started to read again the books of Parashara with a new intention, with a new spirit, so that we can find a solution for this. And this is where I noticed something, and basically our subject for today is the gift of Brahma. It is mentioned in the book of Parashara, and this is the greatest gift any Jyotish can use in his life, for an astrologer and for anyone who is going for a reading.
Okay. So describe the gift of Brahma, at least and by the way, one of the reasons I was attracted to Jyotish was because I wanted to find out how I could change things myself. So this is going back about 30 years now.
Okay, so Jyotish is very interesting, especially when it works. And I know, especially your predictions and mine, I see them work every time because maybe we know how to evaluate the strength. Parasara talks a lot about evaluating the strength of the house, of the planet. Yeah. So it's really interesting that Jyotish really works. Now coming to the topic of the gift of Brahma, I will just say what Maharishi Parasara says to Maitreya in the chapter 84, verses 26-27. He says, the planet who is the cause of adverse effects to a person at any time should be worshipped and appeased, because Brahma has blessed the planets with the boon, be good to the persons who worship you. And the development and progress and downfall of the people and the creation and destruction of the universe are all under the administration and authority of the planets. Therefore, they are most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically Parasara is saying that it doesn't matter how much adverse effect you have in your chart. Suppose your planets are all in the 8th house or 12th house or 6th house or really weak. It is sufficient that you worship the planet, accept it, and the planets are blessed with the boon that they should give you benefit results, because God has ordered them in this way.
Yep. Okay. And so, as and so, in terms of worshiping the planets, we have gemstones as remedies. We have mantras as remedies that are specified. But is there a larger global view you can take in terms of honoring the planets? Is there a more direct path than that, do you think?
About the remedies. Parasara says a lot about the remedies, and I read the books about remedies. Basically, what I learned from is that when you do a remedy, you shift the adverse effect. It's not like you remove it. In Bepin Behari's book, he mentions an incident with the woman that has problems in sleeping. Then she goes to an astrologer and he gives her a remedy. And when she does the remedy, she starts to sleep good, but she starts to have a lot of expenses.
Yep.
So the adverse effect has shifted, but it didn't go away.
Sure.
So the remedies do work. They really do work, and they give effects. And it's like you have a choice. You have a choice to play with the adverse effects.
Sure. And
Shift them.
I can tell you my experience. As a matter of fact, I had exactly the same experience with in the case of the woman you were the example you were using. I have a lot of planets in the 12th house, so and I don't feel really shy about saying the details about my chart. But basically, and I got stones for Saturn and Mercury. They did increase my knowledge base. There's no question about that. They also increased my expenses dramatically. So I think one of the things you have to keep in mind is when you're applying specific remedies is they're going to not only accentuate the good things those planets do, they'll strengthen the planet. They'll essentially make the significations of the planet stronger. So every planet has good and bad significations. So if Mercury's in Virgo in my 12th house, it'll increase my knowledge, but it'll also increase my expenses because it's a 12th house lord. So it doesn't necessarily. And there was one very important thing that I was taught to do when I first started using gemstones, and that was it was an astrologer from Canada. I cannot remember his name. It was an Indian man. Had told me essentially what you should do, and I don't think a lot of people are told this. What you should do before you wear a gemstone is actually do a mantra, essentially worship the gemstone as a surrogate of the planet. And I think that information isn't common. I haven't heard it commonly shared by a lot of astrologers. And I don't think it's a big secret I have. It just makes sense to me because it's as you said, you worship the planet, so the planet won't harm you. I wasn't harmed by the planet. I just didn't have a lot of spare cash. You know, that was the main thing. So essentially, it did work to a certain extent. It didn't make me rich, but it made me able to do things that I probably would not have been able to do otherwise. But I think there's also another perspective that you and I have spoken about, and that is the idea of your spiritual sadhana, your perspective on the world, actually helping to change your fate as well. Could you amplify on that?
Yes. So basically, when we are on spiritual path, we look at different places in the world, and we try to learn from every culture. Like we live in the Middle East, you live in the West, but we had both an urge to learn more about the Indian philosophy and about Jyotish. So when I learned more about Jyotish, I learned more about Jesus, more about Pythagoras, more about Socrates. So I noticed that they all speak about the same concept. Jesus said to love your enemies. I think that this is the same thing. If you have an adverse effect from a planet and you loved it and you accepted it, I think it's a method that you change it. When Jesus said this, he didn't say it only from a philosophical point of view. He said it, he was giving us a tool to change everything in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that this is the only tool that you can evolve. And he says it, if you read the chapter where he says love your enemies, you will notice that he says, what good are you if you only love your people, the people who you love, but you really are more if you love the people that hate you, or they are your enemies. If you could be in such a state, then you are out of this matrix, you are out of this worldly negative rules, and this kind of gives you the power and strength to change everything and bend the rules that binds you. So basically, this tool that Parashara gave is a game changer for every Jyotish.
Sure.
And it's kind of backed with many other sages from different cultures of the world. From even Buddha said something similar to this.
Sure.
And Buddha said about conquering ourselves, about conquering our demons.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the work we have is to love and to accept the life and the situation we are in it. And I want to give an example about a country that that will make us understand more what I'm saying. In World War II, Germany did a horrible thing. Okay, but the German people were courageous enough that they accepted their mistakes and they loved who they are, and from that they progressed a lot in their life. And now Germany is one of the top countries in the world in industry and in clean energy. So something very similar is something that I learned recently. Its name is Ho'oponopono. It's a prayer in the Hawaiian tradition that basically is about four things, four phrases. The first of them is to say sorry for everything that you have done, because you are the true responsible for every karmic event you have in your life. second is to say forgive me. You can say it to yourself, to your soul, to God. Then you say, I love you, to yourself, to God, to everything, and thank you. Basically, this prayer is very similar to what Parashara is saying, to accept and appease, to worship and appease, to love and accept.
And that brings to mind the idea that, you know, that the greatest teacher that we have in the chart, the greatest guru we can have, is making mistakes. I was reading just this morning, I was reading a chapter in one of Mr. Rao's books on prediction, and he was encouraging people not to be afraid to make mistakes, because mistakes are often your greatest guru. And that's not only true in astrology, that's true in life. So nobody starts off playing violin like Yehudi Menuhin, or he starts off painting like Picasso. You know, nobody starts from that place. They all start from another place, and they make mistakes. They have cast off works. And as an astrologer, you have these problems too. You know, you say, well, I did that once, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? Am I doing something wrong? And you learn from that, you know. And it's true. It's true. When you're, if you can put yourself back to the mind when you were a student, you didn't know everything, right? You didn't know your multiplication. You didn't know algebra. You didn't know any of that stuff. And some people pick it up more quickly. Other people have to work harder at it. But it's all your action. It's all how you deal with it. And to amplify on your other point, and we can talk about this in a little bit more detail, but basically, the chart isn't, if you're trying to change your life or learn from your mistakes, you're not flying in the face of God. The chart is essentially a reflection of your karmas, the karmas you from previous lifetimes you brought forward, maybe mistakes or maybe things you weren't paying attention to properly. I dislike the idea, although I'm certain it occurs, and there are combinations in the book which indicate that if you've insulted a Brahmin, you have this placement in your chart. But the proliferation of curses I've seen over the past 5 years or so, I've just gone like, wow. I don't think they're, and the idea of using the word curses to a non-Indian is more like, what, somebody intentionally did this to me? No, in the chart we have these problems that are in the chart. So maybe I didn't save enough in a previous lifetime. Maybe I spent too much money, or I didn't care about money. And, or maybe I was I didn't work hard enough. You know, maybe that's what the Saturn in the 12th house means. Or maybe I worked too hard. It's really something that's the result of your karmas. And if it's a result of your karmas, then you can fix them or work on them. You're stuck with certain aspects of this life. You're stuck with the body that you're born into. You can modify it, but it's really, and you have your parents, I have my parents, you have where you were born, I have where I was born. Those are things we can't change. Going forward, if we get a larger view of things, we can see where certain roads are leading. Some of them may not be so pleasant, but we can make them more tolerable by just changing the steering wheel a little bit. So they're tough to overcome, but they can be adjusted. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I didn't want to take up that much time, but
no, what you said is very important, and I just want to add something that when Maharshi Parasara talked about Jyotish in the first 2 chapters, you notice that he said that the Navagrahas, they don't they don't decide your karma. They only incarnated so that they show you your karma. It's not something they created. He is very clear that the planets only show you your karma. They do not create it. So you are responsible for every adverse effect in your chart. First, you have to accept this. Then he says that this science is given to good people so that they help their community. So if this science was given to us and we don't know how to use it to help people, it really will give us bad results. Because suppose I am reading a chart and I give bad predictions to someone, and I don't have the tools to help him, to tell him what to do, to tell him how to enhance his life. So basically, Jyotish and Parasara were like gurus, spiritual gurus, not only gurus in astrology or in Jyotish. They were spiritual gurus. They wanted to help the community to be in a better place. So basically, Jyotish astrologers, I'm one of them for a long time. We tried to pinpoint events, but we were little we couldn't really help people. We couldn't really tell them how you can enhance your life.
Yeah.
So by these rules, by this what I called it the gift of Brahma, I think we can have better results. And I wanted to add something that I learned a lot about Jyotish, and I predicted a lot, and they really work. The Jyotish really works in my life. In the people I predicted, I've seen events turning true after 10 years. So I think our next step is, when we see bad effects, we help someone, and if he really does these rules, the predictions shouldn't come true. I think then we can be a good Jyotish.
Sure. And I think part of the idea of being a good astrologer is so. Let's say if I go into a doctor and he tells me I have a medical condition. Some medical conditions you can do something about. Some medical conditions you can't. We're not at the current stage of development where we know how to address them. But if we do know how to correct something, let's say if you have, I'll use something serious like a ruptured appendix, they know how to treat that. But it does no good to me to go into an astrologer, and the astrologer tells me I have the equivalent of a ruptured appendix, and I say to him, "Well, how do I fix it?" And he says, "It's just your fate." Some of these things we do know how to fix. Some of these things can be corrected. Not all of them. That's part of the prarabdha karma. That's part of the, and also the foundational karma, sanchita karma that we bring into this lifetime. But there are things that we can do which will actually avoid future unhappiness or even minimize it. So I think that it's extremely valuable to point out to people that, number one, their chart does not mean they're doomed. That they don't have to endure all this misery. They may have to make different choices than they've been making, and we're creatures of habit. So let's say if I'll use a serious illness like lung cancer. If I have lung cancer and they clear the cancer up and I still keep on smoking, I'm probably going to get lung cancer again. So again, it's those types of choices that the person has to make in his or her life that will either ameliorate the condition or make it worse. And the astrologer has, quote unquote, a responsibility to say to them, well, if you keep on picking this kind of a woman or man to marry, you're probably going to get divorced again, or you're probably going to get mistreated. However, if you pick another type of person who may not be as exciting to you, but might be a better match, then you'll probably have a happy life. You'll have a contented life. And who knows, you may be able to generate excitement over time. You know, there's nothing. So I think it's the counseling component in Jyotish is really important. The remedies are very important as well, but they have to be applied, and there has to be some kind of a realistic expectation. But I know you believe in the law of attraction, and also maintaining a positive attitude is also extraordinarily important too. Yeah. So I think that those kinds of things. So if we believe we're going to have major problems in this upcoming 7.5 year period of Saturn, you know what? We're going to have major problems in the 7.5 year period of Saturn. If we don't believe it, we may have problems, but they won't knock us out. Yeah. So if you add something to that, John, I don't want to.
Okay, because you know, we are in a spiritual group and we are in a spiritual development. I noticed that there are two sources that governs the human being. First one, that we all basically, majority of the people, the majority of time we use it, it's fear. We basically do everything out of fear because we need security, we need this, but there is something else, and it's love. When you use love, you will break all the patterns you are used to do. So if you use love, the unconditional love, then you will be out of this natural pattern that you used yourself into it.
Yeah. And I think that's very true. If you give without the expectation of getting anything in return, if you're positive without expecting a reward for it, as a matter of fact, that's really an old Christian teaching too. I was taught by Jesuits in high school, and they were saying the same thing. And I'm not Catholic. I was Episcopalian, so I was like the only Protestant in the school. But basically this is a part of it. This is a part almost of every religion's teachings. Essentially, you do charity and you don't expect anything in return, and you do it with a good heart. You know, you don't do it with, well, I better help this person out, or else God's going to hate me. You know, it's really, you're helping yourself when you do that, actually.
Yes.
So we're getting close to wrapping up. Do you have any final thoughts about this topic? And we can certainly explore this more in future exchanges.
Yes, I think for today we covered the most part of this, and I wish that this gift of Brahma benefit the people, and especially the in Jyotish community. And I want to thank everyone in my life who directly or indirectly helped me in my knowledge in spiritual and Jyotish fields. And this discovery is not only mine, because everyone in my life had a part in it. And I want to thank you for your help. Since 16 years ago, you were a good mentor in Jyotish, and I learned the basics, and I learned how not to make mistakes in my predictions. That was from you. Thank you for this interview, and thank you for everything.
Well, thank you, John. It's been an honor to have you, to share the space with you, and also to share your company as a student. I feel blessed by the students I have, to be honest. I don't have a lot, but those I do have, I feel very, very blessed, because they're just wonderful people.
Thank you.
They're the best. Okay. All right. All right. All right. So we're going to sign off now. John's going to post it post this video on his page. I'm going to post it on my page, and hopefully we can get a conversation going with the rest of the Georgia community about this, because it is a big topic, and I have seen a lot of people, and I respect their opinion, that essentially this is your dharma, you have to map it out. But I don't think God gave us brains so we couldn't use them. I think we have a gift of intelligence. Sometimes it doesn't show up very strongly, but it's there. And if we use that gift well, we can have a good life. We may not be the richest person in the world, we may not be the most beautiful, most famous person in the world, but we can be happy. And and I think there's really not a greater blessing than that. Happiness can't be acquired by those other assets. It can only be acquired from within. So, I mean, the other things are nice. Don't get me wrong, but but uh, but they're not going to bring you happiness unless you're truly happy inside. Okay, all right, all right. I have a strong Venus in my chart. I have to acknowledge the material world. All right, all right. So, all right, all
That
right,
is making you a very nice person.
all right. Thank you very much, John. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right.